Hey, folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're back with the first East Tennessee Fishing Report of 2026 with the man himself, Ellis Ward. Ellis, how are you?
Warm and cozy. How are you, Marv?
Just trying to stay out of trouble. It's kind of funny. I know Santa Claus was good to you, but to say that the last 4 to 6 weeks have been eventful in your life is an understatement, right?
That's an understatement. I will say that it's a good opportunity to improve efficiency in every single breath of the day. But, a newborn, a 15-month-old, and a 7-year-old, while attempting to, be on the water when I have trips. I took some time off, but getting back to that now and do anything truly. Throw in some daycare illnesses and, the typical day-to-day things. And wow, it's been a lot, but, it's all manageable.
Yeah, we'll call it your Entropy 2026 tour. How about that?
Yeah. Hi.
So, you have been out on the water, and it's kind of interesting because you're getting ready to kind of get dropped in the deep freeze here later this week, right?
Yeah, we've been all over the place. Last week was, we finally got some rain end of the week over the weekend, and temperatures in some of those Stockton days where things are sort of hanging in the 50s and low 60s, and cold the last couple days. And when I say cold, you get soft around here pretty quick. When I say cold, it's 20s, like high 20s and no wind and sunny, and occasionally it kind of feels nice outside. But got some regular folks coming end of week for fishing post spawn, and Thursday is supposed to be high 28, and high 28 is cold for these parts. We get the next day is high 41, and that can be like we'll say typical lower, we'll say lower half of the highs in January and February, but we do get a lot of these 50, 60 degree days. So just gotta roll with the punches when you get them.
Got it. And I know you've, so the fish are starting to drop back. I'll be on your boat in here in about a month or so. What are you seeing on the musky front?
It's been really low water, and I mean this is the case. Tailwater trout fishing it's not like the musky rivers are going to be super full and healthy when we're not getting releases on the tailwater. So it's been a lot of low and clear fishing, and to a certain extent, I like it because it feels a little bit more targeted. It takes out. It's not so much the difference of tailwater trout, which is, when it's juicing, that's one animal, and when it's like when they're releasing them, when they're not, it's completely different in that quote unquote targeted approach is you're hitting 4x4 pockets in an area where you could be fishing a 50-yard bank, and they're not going to be holding on anywhere but that very specific pocket, just because it is so much lower. With the musky, the zones are still open. They're just a little bit more spooky, and you gotta, on the French Broad, I had a guy go, "Oh, so we're bass fishing," and I was like, whatever you want to call it, but we're downsizing a little bit, and it has less to do with the presentation and of a smaller profile, and more to do with we got to get a couple sidearms with somewhat limited back casts up under that branch and against that bank. And, everything is a bit slower and we can afford to take more than one shot. But, moving some good ones, and it's musky fishing. I think that I've discussed this. I really want people to catch a muskie because that doesn't do anything for anyone. It's going to happen when it does. But it is, if we get these follows that have people falling out of the boat almost and connect on more of them, then I have pictures, and we're talking about a 44 in the boat versus just moving some good ones. And so the conversation becomes very different. I get more anglers on the boat. We have more flies in the water. I get more pictures. We start talking about more 42s and being unhappy with the low 30s and all that. So that's just a walk of life where I'm continuing to exercise patience, and I love being out there and fishing with anyone who does end up getting on my boat. And that train's gonna pick up steam and be well on its way when it makes sense for it to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, you've been cranking out bucktails because we're in the thick of tying season, right?
Yeah, thick of some season, I'll tell you that much. Deer season ended January 4th. Freezers are jam packed. So part of the cranking on bucktail was, dude, we get a couple of those sort of wet 50, 60-degree days, and I don't care what else is going on. Um, that includes sleep. I have two freezers now, and I probably have 1,000 tails in there. And so for a while I didn't have the big freezers, and every Monday or whenever I would go pick them up, it was game time until they were done, just so they wouldn't rot. So things feel a little more staged and controlled in the last couple of years. But I did end up, just because I have a couple more places I'm getting them from, and everyone's freezing them for me now. So um, I've ended up getting more tails than the two chest freezers could fit, and so I've been jamming on them, partially for that, and then also, starting end of this week, um, I'm going to be back on the water, so chunking out 2-3 hours to rip into some tails and die and all of it, and it's very turnkey for me. I've done so many, and I've done it in so many different ways that are so much less efficient than I do now. But it's still like any process. You don't sit down at your computer and get into a spreadsheet, and within 30 seconds, you're operating at the speed that you're operating at in, let's say, 15 minutes and a cup of coffee. There's a little bit of a ramp there. So I think some of it's just planning ahead and saying, man, I want to make sure that these things are out into people's hands during tying season when it's cold, and looking into January, February. And I do still have some good dates available, but number of trips, I want to be on the water, babies, etc. It's just any free time has been, let's get the bucktail moving.
Got it. And since it's the beginning of the year, we always do our drawing from the questions that we used last year. And before I announce the winner, Ellis, you want to let folks know what the winner is going to win?
Yeah, they are going to be voluntarily subjected to between 7 and 10 hours in close quarters with me on a boat. So the winner will get a full day trip of whatever they want. I do, as anyone listening knows, streamer and dry fly primarily for trout, or musky if whoever's listening wants to do that. And we'll get out and get after it.
Yeah, if you want to use your 7 or 8 hours when the sun goes down, the only hours you can't fish are between 4 and 6 in the morning.
Yeah, and there's wiggle room there. So
Just depends on what the stripers are doing down on the lake. That's all we're saying, folks.
My goodness, the number of sunrises after floating the river and ending the lake that I've witnessed might be shocking.
Yeah, the popcorn shad, right?
Mm-hmm. Rain bait.
Yeah, so the lucky winner is Isaac Hale. Isaac, I will hook you up with Ellis. You're going to have a great time. And Ellis, before I let you hop, why don't you let folks know generally what you have available? I don't know. It sounds like you might have some post-spawn dates left, and then we'll kind of shift into kind of the normal stuff on the tailwaters for the hatches in the spring and everything. But why don't you let folks know that, how to find you and all that kind of good stuff?
Yeah, so end of February, second half of February really has a number of good dates and moons. And, as we get into March, I'm going to be definitely pushing pre-spawn musky. And I have a good amount of availability in March. But that post-spawn streamer fishing is if you have an opportunity to get here, and yeah, I mean, you might have a day where it's colder, and we're going to wear nitrile gloves and have hand warmers and be thankful to see the fish that we see that in the same conditions if you were here in another month, just we probably wouldn't be seeing them. So if you have the opportunity to get here in pretty short order at this point, a handful of days throughout the end of January, but definitely looking at second half of February, and then there's a couple in the first half too. But reach out to me on my cell phone at 513-543-0019. You can see pictures of some fish that might have you saying, oh, I want to go do that at elliswardflies.com. You can also purchase your bucktail and musky lures or trout and musky flies there as well.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, folks, as I always say, you owe it to yourself to get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Ellis.
Appreciate it, Marv.